it's the mantra they hear over and over and over again with their teachers, you know, that we want you to get relaxed, and breathing through the snorkel is a big part of that. We want you to...
Why is relaxation important for an adult swimmer, where maybe with a child it wouldn't be such an issue?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with what you said when we were talking earlier, that children are soft-wired and adults are hardwired. And in the stories that we hear from the students that we have, so much of it comes from traumatic experiences that they had as kids or as young adults,
right,
when they didn't know how to swim. And so there's the hardwire right there. There's already this tension.
It's like a bias almost.
It
right?
very much is.
Yeah.
And so we have to break through that bias. And I remember watching, it's a little off the top, but I remember watching, they're talking about a diving coach who was working with 5, 6, 7, 10-year-olds going off the 10-meter tower. He says it's so much easier to teach them than older kids and adults because they haven't built up those fear biases yet. They'll just do it, and they do.
That's fine.
And but we have the stories that we hear from people, and one was in our last class that we had was a woman who was a refugee, I think in Cambodia or stuff, and they were on a boat trying to get somewhere, and it was overcrowded. And she was 3 years old, and someone took her and threw her overboard because the boat was sinking. And her dad had to jump in, swim over as best he could, and save her. And so she comes back as a young adult in her 40s now, who's never learned how to swim because of these biases and these things that they have locked in the back of their head that says fear, you know?
Sure.
So
relax, breathe, and press.
Relax, breathe, and press. And the pressing is what we're talking about, pressing the chest in the water, pressing the most buoyant part of their body, which is their lungs, into the water to help elevate and lift the heaviest part of their
the pelvis, the
pelvis
hips.
region, right?
Sure.
So now the water is flowing underneath them as opposed to flowing into them. And
that's a progression to being a master swimmer, because master swimmers and even elite swimmers, just the other day, I saw a funny little quote from Michael Andrews, who he was floating in, I think, salt water, and his hips were up, and he was jokingly saying, "Oh, if I could only get my hips up this high when I swim backstroke." And so it's an issue that is constantly at, I think, at the forefront of a swimmer's mind, right?
Right. The ones who understand the idea of making something easier so they can work, so then they can expend their energy on the part that's going to make them faster.
Lovely. Thank you.